Hey everyone, let's do my Iseria showcase slash review slash first thoughts. So we can, or I can hopefully make clear to you as to why, contrary to popular belief on Reddit and stuff, that Iseria is actually a pretty good unit. Now, I can understand if you don't want to watch a 30 or 40-minute plus video. I don't know how long this is going to be, but it's probably going to be long because I have quite a few videos, or not videos, but clips already prepared from Arena and RTA. But yeah, so the question you probably have on your mind right now is Iseria a must pull? No. That said, she's incredibly strong. Now, on the first day, the initial reaction was she's mid because people were playing her wrong. People played her on slot 1-2 in RTA, and rightfully so, they got all morted. And mort is a natural hard counter, just like any kind of debuffer, Racist Sigrid, W10A, especially Moonlight Luna. Some might say ADS, though you can kind of work around it by having immunity. But still, there's a lot of potential counters to Iseria, and I find that very good that we are finally stopping the continuous release of units that are virtually unstoppable. Just to name a few, Lady of the Scales, Boss Arunka, Renak when she came out. Now Renak has good counters these days, just like Lady of the Scales has, just like Boss Arunka has. Still, at the time when these units were released, they were incredibly overpowered. And these must-pull units with kits that are way too broad, way too strong, fill out every single niche the game could possibly have. I hope these days are actually gone. If DN and Iseria are to go by, Smygate finally got the memo and did something right. Now, DN, I still feel like is a little bit too strong, but she has the counters and you can work around it. Now, I pre-ban DN. I just cannot win against her, but I know there's a way, just aggro her down with Zeo Cleave, etc. You don't always get it off. But anyway, this is not a DN video, this is an Iseria video. So, yeah, I'll show you the current version of Iseria that I run. I will then show you a couple of other gearing options that you could pursue. But the main issue I see with Iseria is that she's kind of locked down on either Elbris Ritual Sword as an artifact choice or counter set, or I should say. But we'll get to that, so let's dive right in and check out my Iseria and what she does. Let me quickly boot up my Iseria here. So as you can see, this is my build. I'm running her on counter set and pursuit set. Is this the optimal choice? Yeah, probably, because pursuit does actually do wonders for her. But before we get to the gearing and gearing choices, let's check out her kit real quick. So the S1 Revelation with follow-up attack, Sword of Duty. This one penetrates the target's defense, meaning 100% pen on her S1. Now the S1 has a very low modifier per se, and it gets quite heavily reduced when you have Elenaf on the enemy team, for example, or just any form of mitigation, be it an Aureus Knight, be it Carmen, etc., you name it. So the S1, or the Revelation part, isn't what's good. Neither is Sword of Duty. What's really cool and the unique thing about Iseria, or Monarch of the Sword Iseria, is A, the fracture, and B, the pop damage that she does, right? So the Sword of Duty reads, after inflicting fracture on the caster, attacks the enemy with ritual sword, increasing combat readiness of herself and the foremost ally, except for the caster, meaning she doesn't double dip. It's weird wording, but it just doesn't want you to double dip on it. And now here comes the kicker. Inflicts additional damage proportional to the caster's attack on the target up to 20% injuries. And the first half of this sentence, the inflict additional damage proportional to the caster's attack. That's the huge kicker. And that is why you want high attack on her, including Pursuit Set, because Pursuit Set, we all know, scales off of extra damage or additional damage. Extra damage, additional damage, same thing for Epic 7 terms. And with her Fracture Self debuff, you can think of this as the 50% defense break on the S3 from Abyssal Yufine. I just forgot the name, but works the same, though Iseria's version is better because Iseria needs 10 stacks of Fracture to reduce her defense by 50%. On the flip side, though, at Fracture 10, she gains 200% attack, and that is nutty. You can hit enemies for 20k pop damage. Sure, this gets mitigated by the Maid passive or by the FCC passive. Also through Aureus, obviously, or Karma mitigation, yada, yada, yada. Still, this hurts. This hurts a lot. But we're not done yet. The S2 is what makes her really good and really special. So first off, she has 70% pen resistance for herself, not for the team, unlike, for example, Empyrean Ilanav, who has 50% pen resistance for the entire team. Is it 50? Or am I tripping right now? Where is Ilanav? I believe it was 50. It was 30, excuse me. Ilanav is 30, so she has 70 just for herself. I find this a very fair trade-off. 70 for the party would be a little bit overpowered. And here comes the good part, though. All counterattack chances of the caster, meaning just herself, are doubled. And when counterattacking, if the target is a hero, so just a wording, so this doesn't work in PvE, and in Constellation, for example, etc. Triggers a counterattack from the foremost ally, which is very cool. It has super nice synergies with units that already push fast, push themselves a lot by just existing. And yeah, it works well. So the easiest example is Boss Arunca, right? Boss Arunca, whenever she gets attacked, gets a 25% push, and enemies have to attack into her, so she gets the 25% push. And if the Iseria counters, say for elbris, Boss Arunca also counters, meaning she gets the 25% push from being attacked, and the 25% push from Sword of Duty here, which results in a 50% CR push for Boss Arunca, allowing her to very, very quickly cycle her skills. So that is really amazing. It also has very cool synergies with units such as Fern, where you can really quickly cycle her S3. You have Warfare set on Fern, you S3, the enemy takes a few turns, you ideally counter, and all of a sudden, after just one round of cycling, Fern can S3 again. So there are a lot of really, really cool possibilities. And let's not forget Genesis Ras with Iseria. Genesis Ras pushes by himself whenever he has once. So when Genesis Ras is in the front row and he gets the counter off of Iseria, he pushes himself, and you might actually lap a unit that you want to lap, so you can seal the unit. Or, I don't know, Renak gets pushed back by the Zio S3, for example, but Iseria counters and Renak comes back and potentially cuts. Surely, not always the case, but these are the kind of situations you actually want to live for, right? So, but we're not done yet. Also, excuse my coughing. I'm having a little cold right now, but it's fine. Nothing too worrisome. I'm just gonna cough a lot in this video, so my apologies. Now, let's also take a look at her barrier, because after attacking, grants a barrier proportional to her attack. I wish the devs would have an advanced mode so we can actually see the modifiers. If I'm not totally mistaken, the barrier is 70% of her total attack. So the higher your fracture is, the better this barrier becomes. Meaning, if you are, like, take for example my Iseria, if we add 200% attack to this, which is roughly a 13k attack, don't forget, scaling off of percentages wise is you have the attack 4,600 multiplied by 1 plus 200%, 1 plus 2, so meaning by 3. That's how percentages work. So we are roughly 13k attack here. And yeah, that's gonna be quite a lot. 70% of 13k is still, let's see, 8k-ish barrier. And that sometimes can offset their 50% defense loss, which is very nice. And it helps us survive quite a lot. And note that this doesn't say only applies once per turn, or only, I don't know, can only activate once per turn, I believe is the wording. This has infinite potential. So say the enemy laps around because it's a super high tempo team, 6 attacks come in, Iseria counters all 6 of those, and you will always refresh that barrier. So no matter how many times the enemies hit you, as long as they don't penetrate the barrier, you will always refresh the barrier and never lose actual health. This is super overpowered in my opinion, and it allows her, especially if you're high rolling, to be an incredibly dangerous unit. And lastly, we've got Dawnbreaker, her S3, which looks really, really awesome in my opinion. So what this does is, it inflicts fracture baseline on her. So you always, even if the enemy has Mord or Astromancer Eleanor, you would always get at least some kind of fracture onto her, stacking that attack up by just pressing S3. Sure, she's gonna cycle very, very slowly, but at least you have something to work with. So this one inflicts fracture on herself, and dispels all debuffs, meaning if you're sealed, for example, and magically survive until she gets a turn, you can dispel that seal. Then attacks all enemies, and also inflicts additional damage proportional to the caster's attack on the target, meaning everybody that gets attacked, so the entire enemy team. That's a huge pop damage, and that damage stacks up very, very well. Also 25% injuries, which is kind of huge in this HP scaling unit meta. So I like this kit. It's really good. It's extremely well-rounded, I'd say. It's a balanced kit. It has its clear disadvantages against hard debuffer teams, W10A, the racist Sigrid, for example. But it also has incredible strength. And since we know that chances are doubled, meaning counter set is 60% chance to proc, Elbris Ritual Sword on plus 30, meaning maxed, is 40% chance to proc. And if you do the math, it's easy, just type it in Grok. 4 targets, each target 60% chance to proc. No, each target 40% to proc. One target is 60% to proc, and you ask Grok, for example, to calculate the chance of one single attack being countered. It's going to be 91.36%, if I'm not totally mistaken. I could be wrong on the decimals there, but 91% is what I definitely remember right. And 91% chance to counter on every single AoE. You better believe she's gonna counter. And with these high chances, it's been a statistical anomaly to never see a counter in a game. Even if you were fighting single target only enemies, you will eventually counter. And this makes her rather stronger than Setsuka to some degree. Now Setsuka has the huge swing, hit or miss availability with the misses. 30% chance apparently works all the time. But strictly speaking, from say infinite in an infinite sample size, Iseria should perform better than Setsuka, but on a very closed off and very small sample size of turns, for example, Setsuka, because 30% is on the, well, it's left bounded on a statistical side, will always work better. It's just the way it is. It's a statistical rule. I forgot the name about the statistical rule that says a lower chance has higher chance to proc when the sample size is small. But yeah, it is what it is. Nonetheless, Iseria should perform extremely well as long as you don't have a hard counters, meaning seal or anti-counter like Mord Astra Eleanor. Alright, now let's get to the build. There's virtually 3 variations you can go for. Variation 1 is what you see here. And variation 2 would be that you go for an immunity set. Now, let me just go for any immunity set that I have. We want So another variation is HP, defense, and ER. Let's see what we have here. That's too much stuff. That's way too much speed. I don't like this very much. So I'll be picking this, and you'll be going for attack here. Now, as you can see, I don't have such an item. And this is kind of a rare item, so let's see. I don't even have this. Do I even have any? Yeah, I do. So this is something you could go for. Now, this isn't ideal, as you can see. I'm losing a lot of defense, a lot of HP. It is something you can go for. And the immunity route allows you to dodge, for example, Genesis Rasa's S2. Because for the most part, her biggest offender is going to be Genesis Ras, because he can always seal her off with his S2 and collapse her, and then she just dies. I feel like you should draft her in a way that you don't need immunity set, because Pursuit set is way too strong. Now, there are other options to pursue, and I'm just gonna use the this one here. So what also works is Pursuit speed set. So, whoops, that's too much. We'll go for this. I'll go for this. And maybe that's a little bit too much HP attack. Yeah, this could be something you could go for. Let's see. We can probably do a little bit more. Yeah, this looks good. So this is a build that you could try. And I would reckon that this works well, especially when you face Mord or Astrelina. 215 speed will allow you to cycle really quickly in quotation marks. Though keep in mind, once you reach higher stacks of Fracture, and higher meaning 3, because at 3 stacks, or even at 2 stacks means 10% less defense. 10% less defense means you deduce 110 out of this, and you're below 1k defense already, which is very low. She's gonna be really squishy. And at 4 fracture stacks, meaning that's 20% off, you're losing 220 here, meaning you'll be at 780 defense, which is it's gonna be a tough sell. But this could be, for example, an Iseria and Cleave. That could be a very real possibility. So that's another route you can go for. I wouldn't recommend this. General consensus, today is day 3 of her release, mind you. Some of parts of my video are from day 2, so keep that in mind. But general consensus seems to be that counter set is a must, just because she scales off that well off of counter set. And the second set is kind of up to you and your preference of play style. I prefer high damage output. I do have a riskier route, so to say, that I always pursue in my aggro play style. So I want to maximize damage and win games quickly. But I can see a world where I would hope that I eventually off-banner a second version of Iseria, and I would play that with immunity set instead of pursuit set, so I can go with Christie, for example. Sure, I could put Christie on Bastion of Palusha and grant her that immunity set that way, or immunity passive that way. And it's what I've done a few times in RTA already, and it works quite well. If I could modify my build, I just don't have the gear right now. I'd have to farm a little bit more pursuit set. As you can see, the crit damage here on the speed isn't ideal. I'd much rather have the crit damage replaced for effect resistance, for example. I could obviously modify this out right now, but this is a gear score loss if I'm not totally mistaken. And I'd like to have the option to one day potentially mod out the speed for crit chance. It's 1-for-1 basically. So I don't want to risk bricking an item that is potentially really good. There's also a couple of items that aren't just up to par. Like this, for example, this looks good on paper. Then you realize I have 14 crit damage, which is absolutely wasted here. So ideally, this is ER. Ideally, I don't min roll defense here, and it's gonna be good. But yeah, there's still lots of room for improvement. Crit chance here is completely wasted. I'd rather have this be effect resistance, for example. This could be, I don't know, 18 ER, and I'd be already at 81 ER. So this is basically, this item is good, and there's nothing you can change about this piece. So this is perfect. But yeah, ideally, you want the stats: defense, health, ER, attack. Those are the 4 stats you want on every left side piece. On the right side piece, you want attack. And on the boots, you can decide whether you want to go the high attack route. You could also just go HP boots, which works perfectly fine. And then you have more bulk. Let's see if I can actually pull this off. I'm not quite sure if I am, because that's a very specific piece. Yeah, I only have 2 of those. And this isn't ideal. Neither is this. But as you can see, I'm still quite having a good amount of attack. I'd say 4.2k attack or more is ideal. And this kind of bulk is nice. 22k HP is really good, but still the ER is the issue, and I'm losing 142 defense, which is quite a lot, especially in the early state of the game. So I'd rather have good boots. I'm hoping that I will eventually get boots that have defense and ER instead of crit chance and crit damage. But yeah, I got a farm for this. I'm hoping that we get a hunt buff event next week, so I can farm more pursuit boots or pursuit set in general. But yeah, this is the build I'm running as of right now. It feels really good. She deals a ton of damage, and I'm having a lot of fun with her. All right, now this is going to be it for the introductory part, how to build her, etc. Yada yada yada. Now let's get into actual fighting with her, right? So what I prepared is NPC Arena and a few games of RTA. I already did my Guild War video yesterday, so check that out. I used her in 2 out of 3 fights in Guild War, and she performed very, very well. I enjoyed using her very much. But now let's get to the actual PvP side of things and see how she performs there. So, first stop in our Iseria Showcase video is going to be Arena. I already did a few flags just to test her out in a few different compositions. I have a specific one just for this very combination that is already selected here, which is Lady of the Scales, Moonlight, Leolha, Setsuka, and Balayan. You will find this quite often, especially the combination of these 3. Sometimes it will be Genesis Ras instead of Balayan. Sometimes it will be Witch of the Mid-Tenebria, which is kind of hard to beat. We'll find that out in this video as well. And sometimes you'll have random stuff like the one with the BBK and the Setsuka and the Ras. But for now, for the sake of this video, just to show a positive thing, let's go this. So what I did before, let me show you this. So we've got the exact same comp. I can show you the replay. It's gonna be a quite long replay, I reckon, 38 turns. So we used this very comp, right? And instead of just showing you how it's done, you can clearly auto this and it won't lose. So we're using this. And I will manual play this. So my runner here, standard stuff, right? And on this build, my household is not even on 3F. You know from my Guild War videos, I like to put household on 3F and lots of counter gear. Now, I always re-gear my household for this very specific cases. But this is my standard household, so vastly different from the one you know from my Guild War videos. This is the standard enough that I never change virtually. This time, though, she uses Aureus. And just like I've shown in the earlier video, or earlier part of the video, is the Iseria that we're using. So I just showed this off in case you just skipped ahead in the video to just watch the fights actually. So don't get it twisted. This is going to be a longer drawn out fight. And we'll be here for a hot minute or 2, but we'll win for sure. So the enemy pushes Balayan as for the most part, and we have a 91.3% chance of countering every single AoE. Now, funnily enough, the 91% chance didn't rock. That is just me though. I am notoriously unlucky in this game, so it's call for the parse. But what usually happens is exactly this: you counter, and yeah, this gets the party started. So blind dual or extra attacks, which is fine for us. This hurts quite a lot though, the first 2 turns, but we will stabilize from there. Especially once we get the revive buff up, etc., etc., will be fine. Now, sure, the Setsuka unit will reduce or remove the buffs from us, especially from Iseria and Rona herself. We'll mainly be doing this just for the healing here, because we took quite a lot of damage from this Belian. It's fine, we'll recover. So here comes the Setsuka, she strips us bare. Actually 24k HP. Yeah, it's only Iseria in this case. We don't really care, we'll just slam S3 regardless because it dispels her, which is the good part. So let's do damage. We're most likely gonna proc off the Bastion of Hope. Okay, buddy. So... Oh, she didn't proc. Yeah, we need to actually hit for this, but it's fine. Alright, here comes Fracture 3. We missed again. Still dealt decent damage. Alright, we procced. Setsuka procs too, even with little whispers, which is good for us because it speeds up our hustle here. Let's start working down on Kyulha. We countered, perfect. But as long as that Lady of the Scales is in front row, we won't be doing much. But since we push this much, she's gonna push a lot, which allows us in return to cycle faster. And this should technically kill her, I believe. Yep, perfect. And from this point onwards, we are basically in the lead. We are the dominating force here. And every attack that now gets countered by Iseria will deal a lot of damage. So much so that the entire team is gonna die in virtually 2 or 3 hits. Potentially even less. And I'm just gonna put this out there. As soon as my Iseria gets to press S3, we win this game. Straight up. Alright, let's hit her. Let's hit her again. We missed. Setsuka counters, which is fine for us. Please counter. Perfect. We get a push. Iseria pushes as well, and this is gonna deal a lot of damage here. After she got her proc, obviously. And there she goes. 19k, just like that. Iseria is really, really strong, especially against Belian, as you can see. So we remove our debuffs, and I believe I should have S3 ready again with Iseria. We miss once again. Cool, cool, cool. No, I don't. But it's fine. That's stack number 5. And that's 5k on a miss, mind you. So her damage is actually pretty good. Alright, we'll close this out with her now. She counters, but it's fine, 8k flicks. So yeah, this, especially against anything Belian, anything Setsuka, or Lady of the Scales, you'll be fine. You'll be super, super fine. This is the same deal, so to say. You cannot play the comp, especially the one I showed off, into stuff like this, right? Well, technically, yes, it would work. It does require you to be on... Actually, we can just try this out. I can just show you. Let's go into this. Technically speaking, this is the comp that loses, because our Iseria is not on immunity. And that means she will get stripped. And I'm very, very certain that Iseria is going to die on this attack. Just because she gets sealed here, we do not push enough on ill enough to remove this, so she has no mitigation against this S3. She has 70% pen resistance, but since she's... Oh, okay. That's nice. So we kill the Fury in here, mind you. That's straight up kills. Or not. But almost. Okay, so still there's one thing remaining, and that thing is called Bystander Hwyong. She's gonna kill our Iseria here. Actually, no, she's gonna kill the other girl. I forgot the name. Elenav. My god, I have it with names today. So Elenav's dead, which means we're in low-key trouble. Oh, we countered yet again. We gain a fat shield. That shield is potentially what saves us the run here, because we will heal up in return. Yep. We were almost dead, which is very cool. We countered yet again the duel, which is whatever for us. Alright. I don't want to proc Hwyong here, so I'll just natural S1. Well, we did so much damage that we still procced. Okay, buddy. I mean, that's always a possibility. We are lucky enough that this doesn't land onto the one unit that can die, so let's kill a Freon here. Or not. I always forget there's this thing called Lady of the Scales. We are at 4 stacks, we gain a flat shield, and we're back in business. So this kills off, yep, the DN, and from here on out, we virtually cannot lose. Like 14k damage. It's insanity, honestly. I don't know what to tell you guys, but this is really, really strong. Okay, enemy pushes. Or the enemy has no more, well, win con, so to say. No more debuffs against me. The only win con that still remains here is Hwyong having S3 ready, which is 2 turns away. That's not gonna happen here. So let's take away all the tempo from this game, kill her off. Or not. With S3 here, 5 stacks, 6 stacks actually. And I wouldn't be too surprised if Hwyong died. I'll be honest. Straight. Actually, will she? She almost died. Let's get an extra turn. She's not dealing that much damage, I just realized. She gets countered. She counters more than we do, which I find rather amusing. So this attack goes into her weak counter, and this means it's Jova for Hwyong. Yep, 12k. So yeah, Iseria pretty good. Pretty good in, well, condom comps, so to say. Okay, so we've got here one comp. You cannot win this. There is basically no way to win this with Iseria, I feel like. Just because you get completely, so to say, controlled by this comp, right? So what we can do, technically speaking, we can go for something like this, where you would ER it up, but all the ER in the world will not save us, and that's the huge issue here. Actually, let me change her. Let's see, we'll go for rail, so... And that is virtually forcing Iseria to work here, right? So this is how it could work. I'm not saying it's going to, because this is a full-on control comp. But we'll find out, right? So we do have a little bit of ER, but it's surely not enough to resist Iseria. I'd be heavily surprised if we actually did. Yeah, I expected as much. I'm not surprised that my Ruel resisted this, just because my Ruel is on around about 200 ER here. So there is a good chance that she does resist, in fact. So here comes the 60k Belian. She's gonna hurt a lot. Procs us, which is fine. Here comes Flag Bearer Cigarette. He gets stripped, which is okay. Actually, it's not that much okay. So what we can and should do is we do this because Iseria and the rest are blocked from buffs, and we need a Rill to survive somehow. So, first kill target is going to be... Actually, we won't kill anything here, let's be real for a second, because this comp will just control us to death. Yeah, so Iseria is dead. The Belial follows up with huge hits, and through all of what we have... Oh, nice duel too. Oh no, wait. That duel was forced. Yeah, never mind. I forgot it was still S2 proc. Okay, so we have a virtual chance now of fitting her. We won't kill, and then she just does her things again. I haven't checked her early. If it's... Yeah, so she just does it again. So, as you can see, into these heavy debuff comps, you hardly win. Now, there is one way to win this, and I'll show how. It's just one slight modification. So, we'll go back in. We replace these, their positions, and we'll go for Christie. Now, mind you, my Christie does not have the most ER. I only have 264, but 264 plus the 63 that we have is 320. So there is an actual chance to resist here. And we're gonna play for that resistance chance, because if we do resist, we'll be Bing chilling. So let's find out. Do we resist 320 ER? We do in fact resist. Let's see if we resist the Flatbearer Secret as well. We in fact do. I mean, Iseria... Christie didn't, meaning it's probably around 200 ER effectiveness, I mean, which has a chance to debuff. And from here on out, we can counter, and we can actually win. Yep, perfect. We really don't mind about Ruel getting hit here, because once she is back, we can just stall this game forever and ever. That's free. And this damage, right? We almost one-shot this this unit. And this is the power, right? 91% chance to counter here. That duel is unfortunate. But we've got Ruel mitigation. Ruel full resisted as well. I can do this. Yeah, we don't really care. All I care about is that Scales and Ruel stay alive, just so we can push, etc, etc. So we cannot do anything here, but we do push a lot, thanks to Christie's passive. We counter, perfect. We get some additional small healing here, which is nice. And yeah, this game is pretty much won. 13k damage, we'll get rid of Sigrid here, 6.7k on a S1. We countered already, which is nice. We also countered yet again. And yeah, this game is Jobber. So Christie plus Iseria in the back row is very good, I'd say. The more ER, the better. And that, but I mean, yeah, this looks good here in an arena, in a very, very closed off environment. You would never get this through in RTA. Sure, you would get one piece through, which is either Iseria or the Christie, because you can put her on bind protection and then you'll never, or you will always get one through. But any half decent RTA player, and I would say most of the Emperor players are half decent, they would ban the Iseria straight up, because they all know once Iseria gets through with a Christie to protect her, it's over. You will never be able to debuff her unless you have Ignore ER. So while this looks very good in this showcase here, please be mindful, it is virtually impossible to get this comp through in RTA. I don't know what you would have to draft in RTA as a 5th unit, that would warrant a ban over any of these four. So that is something you have to keep in mind. But this works splendidly in this closed-off environment that is NPC Arena. So now that we've seen a comp that works, or 3 comps that work, technically 2, but whatever, and 1 that doesn't, we can move on to some RTA showcases and see how Iseria does in RTA. So, final part of the Iseria showcase is going to be some RTA games. As you can see, I'm an Emperor. I dropped out a little bit of top 200, so I'm like top 300, but alas, I have a good win rate. I have a couple of good wins here. So, first game that I want to show off, it's a, so to say, prime showcase of Iseria in this current meta. So what we have here is, I tried to go for Zero Cleave. Very important, right? So first pick Ras, second pick is Racist Sigrid. And usually, because the enemy, had first pick, so I picked Ras and Sigrid. The enemy then realized what I was going to do and put Beline on 3. Beline on 3, you cannot play Zero anymore. However, we can play Iseria in such circumstances. The good part is, for being second pick here, the enemy cannot or has to dedicate 2 counters to Iseria in this case. And this doesn't even account for the first 2 picks, which are very strong in this case. So Iseria on 3 makes the most sense here. And then I just went to Ruel and Fern. I just wanted to test out Fern with Iseria because I knew for a fact that the enemy would ban Ruel in any case of the day, just because Ruel is so strong. So he went for Festive Eater, which I low-key find okay, but fumbled the draft entirely with Celine. Like, Celine has no business in this draft. There's no synergy. There's nothing. So Celine was a bad pick. He should have gone for Mord in this case, because going for Mord last instead of Celine would have meant I'm forced to ban Mord here and cannot afford to ban Yulha. In case that I let through the, or under the circumstance that I have to ban Mord last and leave the Yulha in the game, that opens me up to the very real possibility of just straight up dying to Superhuman Beline. So yes, this was a paid actor draft from my enemy. Nonetheless, let's check out the game and how it went. So we've got Racist Sigrid. It's not a long game, as you can tell. No game with Racist Sigrid is a long game. And what we know for a fact is we cannot ever S2 or S3 because those are not attack skills, and we don't want to give the enemy any upper hand on this game. So what I just did was I assessed the situation. I knew he had to basically S1 with Feeder, skip her turn, because S3 opens him up for a 91% counter chance. But funnily enough, what we are going to find out is the enemy pressed S3, which I find, I don't think this is the right play. You can tell he took the full 15 seconds. He's soul burned. He was lucky. I have 70% chance to dodge on my flag switch. He's on a dodge RD, and with dodge buff, this is 70%. So I got unlucky, sure, as always. And Fern, my Fern is on Warfare set, so she gets to S3 right away. And Iseria plus Fern it's a turbo game, right? So we deal 18k just easily right here, right there. And the blind S3 is hoping to true-woke lock me, but truth be told, I don't care. So we counter here, we gain our stack back right away. We deal some damage, and yeah, I mean, we already got some good injury in on these two, especially both HP scaling units getting screwed over very much so. And I believe that Iseria has extremely good synergy with any unit, just for the fact that she can shut down these HP scalers. Festive Eater being a prime example here, because Festive Eater's proc damage on the S2 hits really hard. And with Iseria, we have a very real chance of shutting that down entirely. And he opts to S3 my Iseria, which I don't find to be the right play. Because at this stage, we know Iseria still has, or at the moment she attacked, she had only 10% reduced defense, which isn't much. I have 1.5k defense, meaning I was at 1.25k HP left, which is still way too much, and I had a flat shield. So we got rid of the Blind here, the ill enough, because my Sigrid has so much effectiveness, would always push her back. And yeah, we've got our S3 back up. And that's pretty much closes the game. Yeah, sure. No spoilers, but yeah, ill enough survives. But how is he gonna win this game from here, right? So ill enough would have died on the very next hit, either from me countering her, or at the very least, I just S1 with Genesis Wrath, and then both units are stealthed, and I will for sure kill off the Celine first, and then I can freely S2, Soulburn S2 with Wrath into Festive Eater, and the game is over. So, as you can see, the Iseria is a strong pick here. Now, this game is something different. So, I mean, the base or the core line of units is virtually the same. We got just NTR or Wrath, but that's fine. We have Scales, we have Racist Cigarette, and we picked a Zeo. So the enemy went full condom, virtually. Let me check. So I went this, the enemy went Elenav and Wrath. I went these two, and the enemy picked Ruel plus Beline. And my mind, whenever I see Beline on the enemy team, or LRK, for example, I just go straight up Iseria, because Iseria is so strong into this. And to close this out, I picked DDR, because DDR is very strong. I have a cleave DDR with a lot of effectiveness, almost 200 on Queen's Whistle, meaning I was in a very, very strong position right away, because I knew the enemy had to ban Iseria here. Iseria was a complete force ban. He had no means to deal with Iseria with his first 4. He knew that and picked Harcedi, which on first thought, it seems like a good pick. However, noticing that I do have Zeo, Harcedi was a very, very bad pick, because I can opt to S1. My Sigrid will push above the Harcedi and virtually push back most of the team. At the same time, because my Zeo has the highest attack, my DDR will also push up from Queen's Whistle artifact, meaning I get full first turn trial, because IS3, IS2 with DDR, IS3 or S2, whichever I prefer in that case, with Racist Sigrid, and then automatically my Lady of the Scales also pushes up, and I had complete first turn trial. So very strong. I don't believe Harcedi was to play here. Too bad Iseria got banned. I lost this game, yeah, because there was no Iseria here. Oh yeah, and this is a good showcase, perfect showcase for RTA's Iseria weakness. So here we fought against her. Now, as you can see, my draft, it is very cookie cutter, right? Nothing special. Racist Sigrid on 2, 0, and 3. Standard cleave. I take away his Yulha, so he doesn't have the Yulha Ras combo, obviously. And I see this and I'm like, how do I lose, right? I have first turn trial. I could technically even take the second turn with Iseria, and then it's just GG. Now, this game can totally go haywire depending on how much the Iseria wants to counter. And Renak in the front row with Iseria in the back row, or wherever basically, it doesn't matter where Iseria stands as long as she's not in the front row. This is a good comp, right? Because if I push back the Renak here, sure, it's 40%, but Iseria, as we've learned before, pushes back 25%, which is good. And we push back 40, meaning she's at 37, technically, and she pushes back and is at 62 in that case, which still is slower than all my units, but it's not as dead as it used to be. However, whoops, I don't have to do that. Now, this is more prone to error, and it's a very risky play, but seeing the CR bar here, I decided my best chance is to just S1 here and have the Sigrid push. Now, this is a 40% loose con. Had the Iseria countered, elbris countered me here, the Rinag would push in front of me, and then I'd be losing. But yeah, in that case, we got lucky. We S2'd here because that's the only good play. We cannot afford to S3, or otherwise we are prone to getting a lot of damage from the what's the name, Sharoon. And yeah, from here on out, it's virtually just blasted down, right? So he's on the he's on Sapir Sexual Fan on Sea Phantom, which is good for us. No additional push for the back row. On the other side, Iseria is protected, which is a good tech. I feel like this actually does matter. I pushed Sigrid here just so we can push back the Sharoon, take a lot of tempo and initiative in this game. And with Lone Wolf Pera, who is, I feel like Lone Wolf Pera has fallen off, but she's still incredibly strong in this day and age, just because she provides so much tempo to the team. So here I was like, yeah, might as well just attack her. We've been lucky more than enough in this game already that Iseria hasn't countered, so I just tested my luck. I got countered, but since we do have 70% evasion on the Pera, I was like, there's not much that can go wrong here. Sure, she can hit, but the first 2, maybe 3 stacks of Fracture still don't pose much danger. So we were safe in that regard. We have S2 ready to snack off the Sharoon here. I opted to go for Iseria just because it's a free turn, right? Meaning I cannot be countered and I deal a lot of damage here. Yeah, we almost killed him in that regard, which is good for us because that opens us up for a soul bonus 3 on Payrock just to AoE hit. We have the soul ready, and S3, if S1, sorry, soul bonus 1 could potentially set us up for victory unless the Iseria counters. She did here, for example, so I was hoping she wouldn't counter me. I mean, it's 60%. I should be expecting it. This also has some decent ER apparently. But yeah, this is a game that's hardly able to lose. The Sharoon here is at the very back of the line, as you can see. So I was very safe to S3. Sure, the enemy gains his cascade, but since Iseria was low HP already, we just could win this game right here. So as you can see, having so much tempo, I had the way faster comp, even though the enemy had Renard, the enemy had Sea Phantom Politis. The combination of Yulha, Racist Sigrid, and Pera is super strong when the enemy doesn't have the answers, obvious answers, or anything tank down. Belian would kill me here. Illinov would stop a lot of damage. Maid would have entirely killed off my comp. We didn't have to face this. And I believe this is just a first day sort of learning curve for most people. And as you can see, I lost against Elf. It wasn't based enough Wyong. I should have banned the Genesis Ras, because Elf Mage, he's actually a good player, obviously. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a legend. He's on the push RD for Sea Phantom Politis. And yeah, I mean, what am I supposed to do, right? I could have outpushed, as I made a potential slight mistake. I believe I S3'd Ras here instead of just S1ing the Ras. Or did I? Let's see. No, I believe I S1'd. Yeah, I believe, yeah. I S1'd to Ras. Correct play. I S3 with Sigrid. And then my win con is basically Sea Phantom not getting out of the fear. So I missed strip on his Illinov, which is very unfortunate, sadly. Because this could be a win con as well. But the actual win con here is, let's hope he doesn't get out of fear. Sadly, he does get out of fear immediately on the very first attempt. 40% strikes again. He pushes up his Ras, and yeah, then it's over. Sure, I get one turn off, but it doesn't change much. So I tagged enough just to dispel the immunity, but all he has to do is soul burn S2 into Iseria, and it's basically over. I cannot win this. I cannot stall the game long enough especially not against the Ruel and the tempo that Sea Phantom Politis provides. It's just unwinnable from this position. So that was another not that clever draft from my side. It was probably the second. It was actually the second game, or was it? Yeah, no, it was a third or fourth game where I played her. Yeah, it was the third game I played her. I played her against this guy. Actually, no, I didn't. I misplayed this, but yeah, there are many games so far that I've played in RTA. She got force banned here because the enemy had no means to deal with Iseria. And yes, I used the Ruel made Yulha Setsuka. I know, I feel dirty. I wanted to take a shower after this game. And yeah, technically speaking, what he could have done is he could have banned Ruel and let Iseria through, because Iseria's damage obviously gets cut down by Elenaf quite considerably, because she full pens on S1. But at the end of the day, the clock was ticking and I had 2 counter units. So this was a game he couldn't win under any circumstances, especially against 2 or 3 healers in that regard. So yeah, very strong unit. You need the right draft. You just cannot blindly pick her into anything. Obviously, if you pick her on 1-2, you're getting more on 3. Don't pick her on 1-2. It is good to pick her on 3 if you're second pick. Do not pick her on 3 if you are first pick. Because on first pick, you pick the first one, the enemy picks 2, and then you pick slot 2 and 3. Meaning you lock in Iseria on 3, the enemy has pick 3 and 4, and just goes mod 3. And then your entire game plan is ruined. Sure, you can go Moonlight Luna and Archdemon Shadow just to seal the mort, but that's using 2 units against 1. You lost the draft, move on. In that case, your strat won't work. So Iseria is a very, very strong second pick unit, just because you can pick on 3, safely pick on 3 if the enemy draft allows you to. But I'd more or less recommend picking Iseria just like I did in this game on 4 or 5. Ideally on 5. As the second pick, you also have the huge benefit of having the absolute last pick in this game, right? So if you're second pick, you're picking, for example, on Yatuaki's case, Elenaf Ras, then you pick Ruel and Belain, and then my draft is complete, and I have the last say of the drafting phase, and putting Iseria on 5 when you're the second picker and have the absolute last pick in the drafting phase, it can change the tide of the game very much so. And all of a sudden, you provide something that is a force ban to the enemy team, and your top 4 are already super strong, and the enemy has no way to deal with Iseria. All of a sudden, you can turn around to drafting phase and make it your playstyle that has the upper hand. It's hard. She's a high skill ceiling unit. I know this sounds ironic because for the most part she is RNG, but drafting her correctly is what will set the good players from the, sad to say, bad players apart. Bad players will pick a 1-2 or 3 even when Mort is open on 3, and the good players will pick on 4-5, knowing when she works best. And I'm not saying I'm a good player. I wish I was. If I was a good player, I'd be legend. But I do have a good feeling for when a unit is strong or works well in a draft, and I can make use of that as a parent. Otherwise, I would be hovering in top 200. Yeah, right. So, nonetheless, how do I feel about Iseria? So this is what every, so to say, showcase / review wants to hear. Should you pull for Monarch of the Sword Iseria? My answer is, it depends, right? If you are a cleaver, I would say yes. Monarch Iseria is a fantastic cleave anchor. Sure, I haven't talked about this much yet, but just take my Racist Secret 0 on a free draft, for example. You can play Iseria as a cleave anchor in that regard, because for the most part, the enemy will pick Belian or any other form of mitigation AoE just to disrupt your fast units or to disrupt your souls. Iseria counters that. because she provides a lot of tempo for her counters, and she has the damage to dish out. Is there anything I would change about my Iseria build? I'm considering to remove the pursuit set from her and go immunity. Or what I could also do is I could increase the bulk by just a little bit, reduce the attack, and increase my ER to 100 to 150. And because I feel like her sweet spot could be 100 ER with very good attack, 4.2k for example, at 20k HP, and as much as defense as you can get. Keep in mind, her defense reduces by quite a considerable amount over the course of the fight. Nonetheless, having defense at the start of the battle, which is the most important part, because at the start of the battle with all the burst and whatnot is the most important part. And other than that, once the game goes into the mid phase or the late phase being defined by Frenzy 5 or so, Iseria will have stacked so much and have gained so much passive attack from the Frenzy that she is eventually going to one-shot. So if you're asking me, she functions in a way Moonlight Shu does. Moonlight Shu also works off of injuries she stacks with, or the higher the injury amount of the enemy, the higher her pop damage on the S3. Iseria, rather similar, albeit it's not tied to the injury per se, but it's tied to her fracture and a huge amount of it, amount of attack, because she also gets that huge shield from the S1, right? So different roles, surely, but similar playstyle, and I really like this unit. I'm glad I pulled her. I mean, I pull every ML5 because I feel like they always are necessary for RTA. And to answer the question, should you pull? If you're a cleaver and want a good anchor, yes, you should. If you're a turn 2 player, absolutely you should. If you're an aggro player, you could skip her. I wouldn't advise to, but is she worth the pity? That's what I'll be asked as well. Is she worth the pity when your pity counter is between 140 to 200, or even 100 between 200? Then I'd say no. Wait, I mean, her banner is up for 3 weeks. We might get the preview for the next unit. I doubt it, but that's what it is, right? I feel like she's worth the pity, but not a hard pity, especially if you're at the very beginning of your Moonlight 5-star pity counter, so to say. I wouldn't want to advise you to spend up to 10k mystics. Spending 5 to 6k mystics on her, if you're getting lucky, I think that's a good deal and you should get her. But otherwise, I'd keep my hands on the table and just wait it out. Maybe you'll get her off banner. Maybe the meta shifts, because we're still looking for that Perfumer Biblis that is potentially coming in a few weeks. And who knows what she does. So I would always advise, let's wait for the next unit that is revealed. The next unit should be revealed next week, potentially. And depending on what the next unit brings to the table, it might be a direct or indirect counter to Iseria. And all of a sudden, those 6k mystics, you better keep them in your pockets, because then you have a good reason to just wait. But otherwise, I'm super happy about her. I like the playstyle. I like the unit. I'll be using her a lot whenever I can, basically, and whenever she actually does something meaningful in the battle. And to me, she's worth the 10k. I had a hard pity, as you know, for my poll video. And I feel like she's a good unit that gets a bad reputation from people that do not know how to play the game properly. I said it. I mean what I said. She's an actually strong unit in the right hands. And from looking at Elfmage's stream from today being the 6th of February, he also seems to agree with me, because he has had great success with her. Maybe our opinion changes over the course of time, but as a time, as at the moment of making this video, which is day 2 of her release, she seems very strong. Had I done this video yesterday, I would have said she's very mid, because on the first day, lots of things we tried out. I watched a lot of streams on Elfmage. I watched a lot of streams on Hilda's stream, and she didn't seem that good. But having tinkered around with builds, having tinkered around with comps, she actually does seem strong after we play tested her. So in short, she's good, really good, just as good as Diana is. So thank you all for watching. I hope this video helped you on your decision making about Monarch of the Sword Iseria, and we'll be seeing each other next time. Bye bye.